All right, we're now live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Superlative. I'm your host, Edward Bushi. Every episode, one guest, a founder, investor, operator, or someone who has built or competed at a level most people only read about. The conversation covers their journey, what they discovered along the way that most people never get to hear, and where they think their field is going. No edits, no post production, just one sharp conversation. So let's get into it. So Emily grew up watching businesses go under and decided entrepreneurship wasn't for her until a side project led to an angel round she didn't ask for. 7 years later, she's now managing four funds, backing 70 startups across three continents. Before we get into your story, two sentences: what is PitchDrive, and what are you building right now? And then we'll come back to it.
PitchDrive is an early stage VC, and we're rebuilding in the first agentic VC.
Yeah, when I had the call with you, it was really, really interesting. I really want to know now what like funds do now when they're agentic and AI first, right? But uh, before that, right? On a call, you mentioned, you got your start growing up with when bankruptcies on in your family side, right? And that pushed you deliberately away from entrepreneurship. What was it about that experience that made starting a company feel like in the beginning the wrong direction for you?
Yeah, definitely. It's mainly about the personal risk that's on stake. So I think most of the entrepreneurs can say that it's mentally a lot. But when it's financially hitting your family, I think it goes into an extra level of things
Mm,
that you carry. When you grow up as a child where you see that you own the bank a lot of money and the bank is not as nice as some investors out there, they will get their money back in one way or another. So when you grow up in that, you think, is it worth it? Is this
yeah.
actually worth it? You only hear the success stories, you only hear the good side of entrepreneurship, but those failures, although they can be origin stories, are also very hard in the moment. And at that moment in time, when I experienced that from being there and growing up with an entrepreneurial family where it didn't go right, I was
Mm.
like, this might not be the risk that I want to take.
Yeah, I can imagine it being very scary, and you don't want to like revisit some like childhood trauma if there was any, right? So yeah, from that experience, like how where did you like, oh, you didn't study entrepreneurship, right? Like as you were like studying in university and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely not. So when I grew up under a couple of bankruptcies, I was like, what's the farthest away you can do from entrepreneurship? Because I definitely don't want to go that route. So I went into the arts. So I did visual arts, I did imagery, etc. I did industrial art because that's where my passion lies. It's in creating elements. And that's actually what I studied in and specialized in afterwards as well.
Yeah, you must be a really good like drafts person. Like you're really good at drawing and describing things visually.
I'm a visual thinker, definitely. Don't bore me with big texts because I'm not going to be interested. But I'm a
Yeah,
visual thinker, and I like to think just in overall concepts
yeah,
and solving problems. And I think art does that in some way as well.
yeah, totally, totally. So like when you were in your art journey, right? That's when Pitch Drive's co-founder came to you, right? And they
Yeah,
proposed doing an angel round. Do you, and that's where it like you were on the sidelines of entrepreneurship. It came and called back to you. Can you like describe that like story?
yeah, sure. It actually started a little bit earlier than that. So
Oh,
in my
okay.
last year, I was working on a project and I did an internship the previous year, and my former boss wanted to start a startup with me. Um, and I said like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Thanks for the offer, but no. And he was like, yeah, but let me talk with your university, see what we can make happen, and just give me 2 weeks. I was like, okay, fine, I can give you 2 weeks. So 2 weeks later, he came back and he basically said, like, Emily, I made this deal with your university that you can swap your last year to work on this project with me. You don't have to go to class. You're basically guaranteed a degree because you're a trial project. They're not going to let you fail. And you get a year to explore on this. And I don't ask any more commitment. We will see what happens within a year from that. And I was like, okay, that's a nice offer I cannot really refuse. So I was like, sure, I can do this for you. I can work on this together with you for a year. And that's what I started working on as just basically my graduation element, my graduation period. And that's how I got in contact with the founders of PitchDrive, who were then not, PitchDrive was not yet a thing back then, but they were actually exiting their second company. So it was their second exit that they were doing. And they were doing angel investing on the side, and they were exploring on what people were doing within the ecosystem, starting from home. So starting from Belgium. So I went for a coffee with them to hear them out and see what they had to say. And that's how the ball got started. Because I didn't know what angel investing was back then. So I was a bit curious to understand it all, because to be honest, it sounded a bit fishy back then.
Oh no, yeah. Like like what does angel investing mean? Because that's interesting. They started as an angel platform, right? But they never wanted to become a VC, and it where you are now is like radically different from where you started. Like, what was your approach, right? What did you think you guys were building that was different? That because you didn't call yourselves a VC, right?
No, we didn't call ourselves a VC. So when I met up with the guys, they were still actually in their earnout. So they still had at least a year of earnout left. So they were just a group of 5 angels doing a little bit of business angel investment on the side. And I was very curious to hear on what that now actually means. And they had this vision on, we were able to do this a second time because it was their second company. So they started with a network, they started with the capital, they had all of the rights, like kind of cards at play to make this a success. And they were like, this is so beneficial. We want to open that up towards other people. And we want to do that mainly when it matters, which is in pre-seed stage, when there isn't a lot. Like, we had the luck of starting with that very early. And nobody else wants to invest money there because it's just super riskful and everything. That like definitely 7 years ago when we started business angel investing wasn't a big thing. Pre-seed investing wasn't a big thing in the Benelux. So that's kind of how we started thinking about it. And when I was in contact with them, I kind of challenged them on the model, on how does this work and how do you guys actually make money out of it, but also what happens when startups don't pay it back. Because for me, that was a big part of why I ended up building with PitchDrive. Because for me, the fact that they just said like, yeah, it's part of the game, we calculated in, I was like, okay, I need to see that calculation. I need to understand that, because it would have saved my upbringing for a big time if that was something that was possible. So in that regards, it was kind of a vision that I wanted to be part of and see how that could work out. And we had a vision of, we have this network can grow. We want to open up this network to really good founders, and there are no boundaries to where founders are. So we're not going to restrict ourselves to where or in what we can invest in. And that's how we started. And we all have a builder's background. So we built a whole data scraping engine. We built a biometric investing so that our angels could just sit on the couch and chip in 10K, 20K, whatsoever from their app. And basically we built a double-sided marketplace, and we didn't manage it that well because we had a lot of angels joining the platform all at once. We had more than 150 angels joining the network. But we were very strict on like kind of the investments that we were doing. So once or twice a month, we had an investment for maybe 5 to 8 angels. So it was filled up within the first 5 minutes that the deal came into the app. It was filled up, and then the app was empty again. So I got a lot of angry mails like, hey guys, I didn't see it. I was too late. I didn't get a notification. Can
You
I
didn't
still
tell me. You didn't
join?
invite me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So they
my
were
gosh.
like, can you not just group a little bit of capital and then just, invest with that? And that's how we figured out, like, okay, how can we group capital? And a
Mm.
VC structure is a good way to do that. So we set up, okay, let's start with a micro fund to test this out and then grow that in what it is today.
So it sounded like you started out as a ad hoc kind of like syndicate, if I'm using the right word, right? But then you operationalize. You have a VC fund so that you don't have these miscommunication issues with the people in your network joining, right? So that's really cool. Um, when you first started, when you were, compare yourself now to the Emily who was in front of in front of those two founders, like trying to like understand this angel game, right? And what did you know? What do you know now that Emily back then didn't understand?
A lot. I think mainly there's capital enough. There's actually quite some capital in Europe. There's quite some capital in the US. There's quite some capital in Southeast Asia.
Mm,
Definitely in the current market. So there is like that should not hold founders back to start or launch companies.
mm,
So I think that's for me the biggest learning, and that there is no good founders will not fail in a certain sense, because we truly believe that it can be the wrong time and it can be the wrong product. Um, but we, in the end, we invest in people. And
mm,
if people are able to pivot along the way, and they might have to do it once, they might have to do it twice, we might have to beg them 3 times to be able to pivot towards where they find momentum, but it's all on the person. So that's also where we judge and where we try to make the right decisions for us.
that's crazy. You sometimes would back a partner, or sorry, a partner, a startup 3 times.
Yes, it happens along the way, right? So it can be
Mm,
within the same company that we facilitate bridge rounds, that we facilitate a new funding round based on a product pivot. But it also
mm,
happened that we wound down the previous company and set up a whole new company, and went through with that, because if
mm.
there is belief in the founder,
Yeah.
um, there is opportunity there.
Okay. So I remember part of the onboarding call that we had, right? You when it comes to like looking at financial analysis and stuff like that, it's not, it's just a part of a picture. It's like a fraction of the picture, right? You're doing something, you guys, right, at PitchDrive, where people are coming in and they want to be part of the fund, and they were complaining that they couldn't join earlier on. Like, what are you looking at when you make a decision at pre-seed, right? Like, if it's not
Yeah.
the numbers, what is it? You said founders, but like, if you could dive deeper to that.
Yeah, it's definitely founders. I think it's the main thing that we invest in is people, and it's always hard to put like what do you then actually invest in, or what makes it click for you. And I
Mm,
think everybody has a different investment thesis, and I cannot say what's wrong or what's right. But for us, we need to be able. We want to be a value add partner, so we also look at, can we bring value here, and does this profile match a profile that we love to work with? And there are
mm,
some characteristics on what we judge. I think restlessness within founders is a very good attribute to have. Always thinking on what's next. You also see it with like top athletes, is like the ability to fail, take accountability, and restart, and how fast that goes. Because
mm,
even with top athletes, there is a lot of research around that as well. Is they do it within games multiple times. And I think it's also an aspect that you can reflect on founders, because missing the mark and taking accountability and iterating on that and moving forward is quite a
yeah.
good asset to have as well within your founder skills. And then we also, of course, look at compatibility within the team. And passion, mainly passion, because it's gonna be a hard journey along the way. People need to be ready to do it, and that comes from intrinsic motivation. It's not how much capital we invest in the company, it's not how rich they want to become, it's what they want to change in the world
Yeah.
and how hard they want to fight for it. And that's, we call it like kind of love for the problem.
Yeah.
The solution on how they will solve it might change, but if there is an inherent motivation on this is a problem we want to solve, they will find a way to do it.
Hmm. You know, uh, it's crazy that you mentioned all these like little details inside like um behind like the founder, right? And it from our call, it sounded like you have a at PitchDrive, you have this really cool thing like a data scoring engine for founder selection, right? Uh, is how inter like could you describe how that works? And like because
Yeah.
you're not you're using that not to rely on the network. You're using it's like an internal scoring mechanism. Like I wonder how you would like be like scoring. Yeah, this guy knows how to, or this guy or lady knows how to understand they made a mistake and then pivot again. Like how do you score something like that?
Yeah, definitely. It comes into, you have the big, easy kind of scoring elements that I think most of the VCs have some kind of variant in it, where you take into account, like, okay, how well do they know the market? What kind of
Hmm.
validation is there? Like,
Yeah.
do we believe in their go to market asset? But that's quite superficial. It all starts
Okay.
if does the business case make sense, yes or no?
Hmm.
And then we select the other element where you say, okay, how are we now actually gonna judge these attributes that we are actually looking for, and do that in a subjective manner, because it's also um, investing has been um, yeah, it's very subjective. It's an emotional decision you make. So how are we going to quantify that a bit better on what kind of steps we take? So we have different steps within the process where we actually kind of challenge founder on different things. So of
Mm.
course the business case needs to be there, but then mainly in my call, I'm not per se looking to understand the business. I'm trying to find where the holes are, or where people push back on how their reaction time is. We also
Oh,
analyze all of our calls, so we see the kind of words that being used, like is it to the point, is it working around it, do they answer straightforward, do they end up speaking loudly, speaking softly, like all of these things are being able to measure. You're able to measure them, and that's all
what?
metadata that you can use in your assessments.
That is wild that you like really study like the interviews and actually how they are conducted
Yeah,
and
I think
top
it's
of the business.
most. Yeah, I think that's where we make, or most decisions are not made on, does this business case make sense, but
Yeah.
like how are the people. And then that also still involves very much an inhuman personal contact with somebody. We always like to see the founders before we invest, mainly because there are still some elements that we didn't nail yet to figure out how to do it within like interviews, and what the brain actually picks up in regards of energy, in regards of body language, that it
Yeah.
isn't able to pick up when it's like a Zoom interview, let's say.
Oh, so you also like meet them in person. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
it's one of the last steps we do, and it's mainly a challenging step where we want to see if we can build with them. So at that moment of the on, it's not anymore on qualification, but we kind of challenge, can we build together with them? Because as I said, we want to be that right partner. For us, investment is where it starts. And then we're in for at least 2 to 5 to 7 years. So you need to be a
Yeah.
value add. And how are we going to be that? Is if we can build together. So we judge on how that is within the room. We
Yeah.
challenge them a little bit on to see how far we can push before they become defensive, before they come, like there is this middle line
Wow.
that we want to hit. They should be like coachable,
Yeah.
but they should have their own say, because they know best in the end. It's their business, but they should be open for outside opinions and see
Yeah.
how they can
Yeah.
interlink that. So it's a
Yeah.
fine line that we're looking for.
Yeah. Like you it sounds like you guys have like CIA level interview mechanics just to like understand emotions, and you're looking for their emotional response. That's really really smart. And you know, if you had an engine to put that and all those insights together, that like more power to you, right? And it makes me think of the something you mentioned to me like in our onboarding call. You were saying along the lines, we think AI first and then identify where humans are still needed, rather than AI to optimize what we already do, right? That's interesting. You know why? Because most people are saying the other way around, right? Why does that distinction matter? Like what's the nuances behind a phrase like that?
Yeah, I think it's because if people start to envision what's possible today and they start with
Hmm.
their own perspective, it's already a limited perspective. So I think opening that perspective up and really thinking, okay, how could the world look like and how would we might still fit in
Hmm.
gives a way broader perspective on how things could look like. And it's not about optimizing your current workflows, it's what are workflows from the future, right? If you want to be an agentic VC,
Hmm.
you're thinking why would we for example still do these interviews? Can your agent not talk to my agent and kind of discover if we're a match or not? Like, how would that actually work? How would that look like? Would
Yeah.
you open up code base so we can dive in to see how well your understanding is of the things that you're building? Are you building a wrapper? Are you building something substantially? Like, these are all new kind of ways that we weren't able to do in the future. So it's not about optimizing our interviews or optimizing our current process, is looking at what could the future
Hmm.
process be like. And if you take yourself out of the equation, that from that regards, you get a
Yeah.
much broader possibility.
Yeah. So wow. So like it sounds like just if you're thinking about AI to optimize your work, you're just thinking about a small your world right now. You're thinking of you remind me of Henry Ford's thing where people ask if I asked them what they wanted, they would ask for a faster cart or a horse or something like that, right? Where they're not thinking in terms of like a car or what it can do and where it can take you.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me of that. Okay, yeah. So talking about like companies, you mentioned one of the things that are the norm now, right, is like companies getting 5 million euro revenue in 12 months, when it used to take years, right? And that's crazy to me, right? Like what are what are you are you seeing that these companies can like achieve that, and what makes it a norm now?
Yeah, I think it depends on which specific segment that you're looking into the market. When we talk specifically about that case, we're comparing like the SaaS era where you
Hmm.
did like software as a service and you put that in the market compared to the AI agentic world and the AI software that's now out there. I think the main difference there is the one charge that's based on seats. How many people are using this means you need to be embedded into workflow. You need to be embedded into people workflows on how they do things. You need to implement in their current processes. You need to become all part of how they do elements, and that's habit change. And habit change is just a human process that takes implementation time, that takes like changing their way of working, and you need to get people on board. That was the SaaS era. You made tools for people to do their job better. Now in the AI era, you're kind of charging outcome based. You say, if we do this for you, no matter within which time frame, you pay us that amount of money for it. And people are just buying the outcome, and you can convert that quite fast. And I see it with like the big LLM firms, as well with the big labs. I don't think anybody spends the amount of credits that being spent on Anthropic. Used to be like full sales cycles. Now everybody's using it, and the usage goes up.
Hmm.
And due to the usage and the outcome base goes up, people just continue to pay for it. It's not a negotiation anymore. which means your exponential growth opportunity is just enormous. And this is also something that's pushed from top down instead of bottom up. SaaS was a bottom up strategy where you worked
Yeah.
with people on the ground and then you made like a management layer on top of it and you gave insights to the board. Now you sell outcomes toward the board and the board pushes it through their organization. So they say, if you can deliver this outcome, these are basically whole departments we don't need anymore, or we can restructure, or we can take out. And those decisions are now made top down. I don't say that's a positive element for the work market, but they're
Bold
being
word, but
made
yeah.
top down.
Yeah.
And they will be pushed through. So that's what we see right now, that we have startups that go both sides. So they go into like usage numbers quite fast. We had a startup launch, and within the first 5 days, they had 1 million of ARR. So they just exploded in that sense. And we had another company going the top down method, where they basically were able to sign 6 million ARR in the first 8 weeks. So, and that was top down from the management pushing it down towards the workforce.
Emily, I need your help here, because like when you say outcome based, I understand the tokens, right? You spend tokens to get work done, right? But it's such a new word. Like, what does it mean, like, to use specifically? Like, I'm used to the world of like Figma. I'm used to the world of Notion. You pay per seats, right? But
Yeah.
what does it mean to outcome? Like outside of like AI stuff, because that's the only place that I see it, or in Claude,
Yes.
for example. Yeah.
Outcome based, for example, is what you now see, and that's the next step of where agentic workflow can go,
Yeah.
is you just take the whole hassle away, and you don't, for example, you will not pay your lawyer anymore to give you an hour advice to review a contract. You will just pay a fixed amount of money for standard contract review, and it doesn't matter how much time was spent on it, right? It's that outcome based level that you can kind of copy paste to all of the current organizations. I don't need to know specifically how things are run, or you don't need to give me more work to do things. For example, we have an AI company that does voice AI for logistics. And what that means is actually, so everybody is, all the truck drivers are on the road and they need to be called up when there is a delay, how that affects the planning, etc. And this is run by call centers who are constantly calling like the truck drivers on what's their current situation, their current ETA, does the planning need to change whatsoever. Basically say, okay, we do that for you. You just get the outcome. All your calls are managed and you get an updated planning. You don't need to do extra work. You don't need to do anything in regards to interface whatsoever. We just manage and you pay for the outcome, which is no calls anymore. So they pay per calls that they take over.
That sounds like that's crazy, because are you almost saying that in the future, like startups won't even need to build interfaces, because the company already is, sorry, the client already describes what they want, and what
Definitely.
AI agent just does things in the background, that just a coffee appears or a truck just delivers and gives updates, and that's it.
Yeah, I think interfaces are something that humans cling to because we need to make sense out of something, and we would like to see what's happening. So you see it already that right now it's most of the time outcome based, and you can kind of a dashboard, so it doesn't feel like a black box and you kind of know what's going on. But in the end, there will also not be a person looking at it anymore. It will be an agent looking and assessing your workflow as well. And I think you can even bring that further into the current world of web search. Like, who is really gonna still visit websites if you can ask your AI bot to purchase something or to do something? Like, why would you still need a website that's humanized for people? You should optimize for the bots coming to your website.
Okay, I see it. I've seen those threads on X a lot, right? Like it make things agentic, right? And you're putting another layer to it, that the future websites might not even be for humans, right? But you don't even, then it means to me like, wow, like there's no need for crazy design anymore, right? Like all this fancy stuff that might go out, right? Just have the
No,
information there, be useful for agents.
but I let my bot buy a new pillow for my dog because I needed a new pillow for my dog. And I was like, this is my criteria. I need this. Just buy me something.
Yeah.
And that gave it the skills to do it. So it sent me a QR code of the
Mm.
checkout. I did the QR code because I didn't give it access to my wallet yet. So I did the QR code. I paid. And in the end, I needed to look where and what was actually ordered and from which
Yeah.
site because I didn't know. I just knew that something was going to arrive, and I didn't know where my bot found it or whatever. It fit my criteria. It was what I needed, so I just
Yeah.
bought it.
Okay, so like it's important for you. It's important for people to have the receipt to know the pieces of how the outcome was put together. But like going back to outcome, for you in that scenario, having a pillow for your pet, that's the outcome that you paid tokens for.
Yeah,
Oh man. Okay. Like you guys in Europe are very forward thinking in a lot of cases, I have to say. So yeah, like I'm looking at the time now, and I have to say, like, this has been a really amazing conversation, right? I'm learning like new nuances to things that I've like discovered on Twitter and chatted with different um, uh, uh, folks in the startup industry here, and I really appreciate the you going down into detail and sharing that here. I want to ask one last question, right? Because you mentioned about how the future looks like with being agentic first, right? And companies thinking that way, right? Uh, I'm thinking also VC companies are companies too, right? How's PitchDrive getting ready for that agentic future itself?
yeah. I like the fact that the agentic future makes that money is not relative in a certain sense anymore. Like there's the competition in the market is becoming quite high,
Mm,
which means there's quite some capital being able to deploy at early stage in pre-seed stage. So if you're a VC and you bring money to the table and it's your main advantage, you will get played out of the market, and I think that's a fair point because money is kind of the lowest value you can bring to a company. You should be able to bring more to the table than that. And then when you
mm,
link it, okay, what can you then actually bring as a VC? I think where we kind of make the difference and why people want to become part of PitchDrive is because we're just builders by heart and we continue that throughout the journey. And it's not because we do a pre-seed investment that we are not there until the end. So in two cases with our portfolio company, we negotiated the exits with them, with the
wow.
founders. We are there for the whole journey and the money is just a way in. And I think VCs need to understand that. And that's now highlighted as well. I think it's a very useful element for startups because you will get more value on your cap table, which is a great thing. And I think it shows in our fund because right now in our new fund, we got the question so much that I started this trial error where I basically said, okay, founders of our portfolio, if you want, you can become part of the fund, and we will allow you with like the minimum amount of tickets that we can legally do. And the response was immense because for us, it's not investor or founder; everybody's on the same table. And now almost like I think half of our founders joined in the new fund. So I think it's a great estimate of a story that we're building and not just a vehicle that funds startups.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I'm really happy about your guys' journey. Like you're in your fourth fund now, 70 plus startups, right? That means a lot of things. So like more power to you, and very happy that you got to where you are. So Emily, just to land the plane, so to speak. This conversation is just the beginning, right? I hope to have you in the future and chat with like how agentic stuff has changed the landscape. But for those who want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
best way to do that is via my email. It's just emily@pitchDrive.com. Very happy to always give feedback, to share knowledge. I think that's within PitchDrive the main thing that we do. And we open up our network. So if that means you don't need to come for investment, you can just ask for help, whatever. We have quite a broad ecosystem that we can put forward, that we want to help out with startups. So whatever you think we can help with, happy to send over that question via email.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. All right, Emily, we'll leave it at that. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying for this episode of the Superlative podcast. And yeah, Emily from PitchDrive VC. There we go.
Thank you.